Tonight, Rockhampton's day of reckoning, a city underwater with the flood peaking. The abandoned residents trapped and angry, and the flood's other forgotten victims. A flood task force is formed, led by a highly decorated Major General. And the hospital and retirement home evacuated as St George prepares for a record inundation.
This is 7 News with Patrick Condren and Talitha Cummins.
Good evening. The Fitzroy River in Rockhampton has defied predictions and hasn't reached its expected peak. Talitha Cummins joins us live. And Talitha, how high did it get?
Well, Pat, good evening, everyone. It was supposed to reach 9.4 metres, but hit 9.2, and it hasn't moved since. Authorities say that final surge could still be coming, but it is looking unlikely. But today, the Premier moved to create some certainty, appointing a flood recovery task force, even as Rockhampton waited for the worst.
The Fitzroy River, still short of its expected peak, but still so damaging.
Residents of the outlying suburb of Port Curtis, where 3 people died in the 1991 flood disaster, say this time they've been deserted. Reporter Erin Edwards made her way into their community today to find heartache and anger.
Port Curtis, 300 people, all isolated, abandoned too, according to some.
The survival of flood-stricken animals has not been forgotten. RSPCA staff are running mercy missions to reach stranded animals in Rockhampton, who until now have been forced to fend for themselves. Well, the task force was announced after a special cabinet meeting called by the Premier today. Anna Bligh and Major General Mick Slater join us now. Good evening to you both. Major General, when will you visit the flood zone?
I'll get up to the flood zones as soon as I possibly can. Today is first day on the job for me. And there's an awful lot I have to get my head around, first of all, here in Brisbane. But as soon as I can get to the affected areas, I will be. So
will you be drawing on the experience of Cyclone Larry?
I personally will draw on the experience of many people. I was involved in the initial emergency relief work in Cyclone Larry. I will be trying to speak tonight with General Peter Cosgrove, who was involved in the recovery in Cyclone Larry. He will have a number of lessons and a wealth of experience, and he will be one of the people I will speak to, yes.
OK, thanks for joining us, Major General. Good evening, Premier. You said today this disaster will cost Queensland at least $5 billion.
Well, that's the total cost that we know of at this stage, including what will be a cost to the insurance companies. But this is a very big disaster. It is, as I've said, Queensland's toughest hour. That means you need your best people. And we've got, I think, a very good leader for this recovery now in Major General Mick Slater, and I thank him for joining the effort. And it means you put your resources where they're most needed, and regional Queensland needs us now, and that's what we'll deliver.
OK, thank you very much for joining us, Premier.
Thank you.
In Emerald and Bundaberg, the clean-up is ongoing. Last night in the Sugar City, business owners met to discuss their uncertain future. More than 100 shops were damaged in the devastating flood. Many owners aren't insured. It could take a year for the business community to fully recover. And to make matters worse, they're bracing for more rain tomorrow.
Watching their business and having to go through the worry of.
Well, evacuations are underway in yet another Queensland town. St George is only just recovering from a massive flood last year. This time, authorities have moved quickly to get the most vulnerable people out while there's still time. This flood disaster continues to get big coverage overseas. Now the American government has offered to help out. US correspondent Mike Amor has been watching closely. Mike, what have they said?
Talitha, Americans have certainly been moved by this disaster, and speaking on behalf of Barack Obama, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has offered help to Queensland. She said in a statement, "Our thoughts and prayers are with everyone affected by these floods, especially the families of the victims and with all the people of Australia." Now, Mrs Clinton said the American Embassy in Canberra will continue to monitor the disaster, and these floods have been getting unprecedented coverage here.
Especially hard hit the city of Rockhampton, about 400 miles north of Brisbane on Australia's east coast. That is where reporter Talitha Cummins of Australia's Channel 7 News is live for us tonight.
I think most Americans are staggered by the sheer size of the area underwater, which is larger than Texas, the second biggest US state. So have no doubt they're watching very closely those heartbreaking pictures of people being rescued and homes being inundated, and they've been a little frightened by the reports that those floodwaters contain snakes and crocodiles. So the widespread devastation being felt across Queensland has certainly not gone unnoticed around the world, and especially here in America. Talitha.
That's nice to hear, Mike. Thank you. So, Pat, still uncertainty over whether the river has reached its peak or not here in Rockhampton, but it looks like it may have. It'll take up to 2 weeks for the flood to clear. Then comes what will be another heartbreaking clean-up. At least now they know there'll be someone to help. Pat.
Good to hear. Thanks, Talitha. See you soon. Angie joins us now. And Angie, how far off is this new threat of rain?
Well, Pat, we'll start to see heavy falls this evening. In fact, they've already started in the southeast. Storms hit Esk and Toowoomba late this afternoon. Now the rain band's now over Ipswich and Brisbane City. The worst of it will hit tomorrow, and it's headed for the state's flood zone. As that upper trough continues moving east, rain will be widespread around Bundaberg and Capricornia. We're looking at 50 millimetres a day until the end of the weekend, so totals up to 200 millimetres, enough to cause more flooding and worsen river peaks. And Pat, the Weather Bureau has now confirmed 2010 was Queensland's wettest year on record.
Thanks, Angie.